Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Niculescu. Welcome, those of you who are here in the room, those of you who are joining us remotely. Today, I'll tell you a little bit about what we do at Mindex Sciences, how we can help doctors and patients. Also have a lot of time for questions at the end. This whole thing will take under 30 minutes. So let's get started. So Mindex Sciences was created to address this issue of not having precision in mental health. And I'm a psychiatrist, so I deal with that in clinic all the time, have dealt with that my whole career. So we created something better for patients, for doctors. And my teams over the years have laid the groundwork, done the studies, and now we have the tests and the products that have permitted us to enter this new era of precision mental health. So we're at the dawn of precision mental health. So just brief introduction about myself. As I mentioned, I'm a psychiatrist. I'm also a geneticist, and now by necessity an entrepreneur. We've pioneered this field over the last 2 decades. We've done studies with teams across the US and around the world to identify blood biomarkers that are not part of our blood biomarker testing. I was for 2 decades in Indiana, where the company has started and is based. I'm currently a professor at the University of Arizona, where I moved to found this Center for Precise, Personalized, and Preventive Psychiatry. Mindex Sciences started in 2020, right at the beginning of COVID. We didn't miss a beat. We executed throughout the pandemic, and we've moved forward relentlessly so we can help patients, doctors, and help transform the field. So I was, educated as a clinician, as a researcher. And when we started Mindex Sciences, I went to Kelly and also got an executive MBA so we can, so I can understand what the business people around it, co-founded it with me, were telling me. And I've treated a lot of patients over the years, a lot of complex cases. I still see complex cases nowadays by referral and so on. We're not kids who drop out of college. We're all serious people. So this is the team that started Mindex Sciences. Alongside me, another co-founder was Ananta Shekhar, who was the vice dean here at IU. Now he's the dean at the University of Pittsburgh Medical School. Tian Li is an entrepreneur and former medical student of mine from back in the day at UC San Diego. He was always nudging me, Bob, you should start a company so that your discoveries can benefit patients, doctors, and finally, 5-6 years ago, we did it. And Steve Stahl is the most famous psychiatrist in the world and a former mentor of mine from back in the day when I was training at UC San Diego. Then we have experienced people running the different areas that we do. Our chief scientific officer is Sunil Kurianets, who's been through companies developing biomarkers in other spaces like transplant and so on. Our CLIA lab director is Professor Marwan Taye here at IU Health. His day job is running the IU Clinical Genomics Lab, where he signs off on genetic testing for newborns, for adults, for cancers, for all these things. We have Dana leading our marketing, and Michael is running the team here in Indianapolis. So the problem that we're all facing, and it's not something that is a secret, is that these mental health issues and chronic pain are highly prevalent, 1 in 4 people. So all of us have family members, friends, co-workers, know people who are affected by them. And current diagnosis and treatment is trial and error. People end up on multiple medications that do not work very well, have side effects. And one of the unfortunate outcomes of these disorders is suicide attempts, suicide completions. Over 1 million Americans every year attempt suicide. The actual number is 1.7 million. We should all collectively do something about this. So our breakthrough, and it took us 2 decades to become an overnight success. Our breakthrough was we were able to develop these blood tests for different mental health indications. Most people think that blood tests for psychiatric disorders are unavailable or hard to develop, but we did the work over 2 decades to discover, validate these markers, show their clinical validity. And they are described in over 20 publications and 10 issued patents in the US and EU. And all of the panels that we have in our MindX1 liquid biopsy have 1 or more publications behind them. We always do the research first, publish, and then they are rolled out for use by you as clinicians, by patients, and so on. So our current MindX1 liquid biopsy has 8 panels for 8 indications inside: pain, stress, anxiety, mood, psychosis, memory disorders, suicidality risk, and active longevity. We will have this year, I think, depending on how fast we publish, we've already have the papers in review. We'll have a panel for ADHD, and later in the year, a panel for alcohol cravings that will be launched after the papers make it through the arduous peer review process and are published in our top-tier international journals, as we usually do. And they'll be added to this MindX1 liquid biopsy for, for you all to use with your patients. So the key advance is that with our RNA blood biomarkers, which are dynamic markers, they change with disease biology, with disease severity, with state, with response to treatment. So these blood biomarkers help address the first 2 steps in any patient assessment, which are what does the patient have? So they help with clarify the diagnosis, and what medications should the patient be on? The third step is what dose of medication. So for that, there are currently DNA type tests from saliva that are being used, pharmacogenetic tests that look at cytochrome P450. Those are widely available. You can use those to inform your medication dosage. But our tests are unique in the sense that they help with diagnosis and they help with matching people to potential treatments based on their biology. We don't diagnose people, we don't treat them, you do. We just provide you the objective information so that you can fly with instruments as opposed to fly by looking out the window. And those are very important issues for mental health, for pain, where we rely a lot on sort of subjective patient self-reporting, our pattern recognition skills, and so on. It's possible that over the next year, we'll also add step 3. We'll also sequence the whole DNA, the whole genome, just like we're sequencing the whole transcriptome, all the gene expression with next generation sequencing. And we may provide those simple pharmacogenetic type reports for whether patients are slow or fast metabolizers. We also want to roll out some polygenic risk scores so people can get assessed for risk even before the disease manifests, before the biomarkers start changing. So we're very excited about what the future holds. We have unique things right now, but we're always sort of aiming for improving what we offer patients and doctors so that they can have the best outcomes and the best lives. Testing process right now is very simple. The patient can initiate the order on our website. They have to list their prescriber, or the prescriber can initiate the order on our website, filling a simple form. The patients are invoiced. This is still a self-pay test. We're working hard over the next year or two to get Medicare reimbursement, insurance reimbursement. Right now, it's self-pay. Patient is invoiced. After that, they get a kit at home anywhere in the US. Looks very nice, like an Apple computer box, not fruits. And it's pre-labeled for FedEx. We arrange for a complimentary blood draw at home in the privacy of their own home, anywhere across the US. It's all part of inclusive pricing. The kit gets FedExed back to our partner lab, which is IQVIA. IQVIA is a very large state-of-the-art laboratory. They have multiple things that they do. They're some of the best in the field, and we've partnered with them from the beginning so that our next generation sequencing is done in their excellent CAP-CLIA facilities and so on. We get the data in the cloud. Mindex also is CLIA certified. We just passed our third inspection in 5 years recently. We get the data in the cloud, analyze it, provide it in a secure portal to the doctors, to the patients. And for first-time clinicians, they get a complimentary telehealth visit to help interpret the results if they so choose. So it's a very streamlined, simple process where everything, can be done and interpreted in an easy way. We don't want to add complexity to an already sort of complex and disrupted healthcare system. So when I hear, other entrepreneurs say that they want to disrupt healthcare, as a physician, I think, healthcare is already disrupted. We need to make it smooth, integrated, and more effective. And that's what we're doing. That's the advantage of not being a kid who dropped out of Stanford and having done some actual, real work over 2 decades. We don't want to disrupt things. We want to just make them better. So here's the at-a-glance integrative summary that you would see as a clinician. Again, we don't make diagnosis, but we do say, our testing results are consistent with the following clinical scenarios. So this is actual data de-identified from a patient that we reported on recently. I think this was a case from last week. So this patient had acute pain as well as chronic pain, not just state severity, but 1-year risk of chronicization. Also had acute anxiety, chronic generalized anxiety, had state-wise had a mixed state. Those are those unpleasant things where you have depression and mania symptoms at the same time. His long-term risk is for mania, so likely manic disorder for, on the second line for the long-term risk. And then he also had somewhat reduced biomarkers for his longevity. So at a glance, you can look at current severity for the patient. You see the red is bad, yellow is intermediate, green is good. So you can see, he was lighting up at the time of testing on pain, anxiety, mood disorders. And also at future risk. This is a 1-year risk for future exacerbation of the illness. It was calibrated in our R&D studies and research studies on actually hospitalization for that illness. So a very sort of hardcore phenotype. And the patient primarily has, issues with pain, with mania, and with anxiety. These are the type of patients that we get at Mindex Sciences. We get some of the most complex treatment refractory cases from across the country. We test them, we clarify their diagnosis. Then in the lower part of the report, you see we provide, on the right-hand side, the pharmaceutical matches, and on the left-hand side, the alternative treatment matches. So this patient was overall, given the different biomarkers and comorbidities, a top match was for lithium, which is a great medication if used at low doses, where it's being rediscovered nowadays as an excellent medication at micro doses, low doses, and then other lower down the list, other medication choices for his clinician to choose from. Again, we don't, make diagnosis or treatments. We provide the data. On the alternative treatment side, he was a match for magnesium, and then lower down the list, other things. So that's how, at a glance, you would get data on your patients. And then the patient also gets like a health grade, overall sort of integrating their score on different things so that, they feel hopeful about improving and so on. We didn't want to overwhelm them with providing them just negative results. So, this patient had a not perfect score, and it says your mindless health grade can increase by implementing some of the personalized treatment matches, and then consider getting retested in the future to see how things have improved. So overall, people are not just their biology. Okay, we're not just biological beings. We're not just our biomarkers. We have a life. We function in the real world. There are thoughts and emotions that go through our head. So we've developed a comprehensive solution. For the biology part, we have the MindX1 liquid biopsy. For the sociology part, we have the Life Improved digital testing, which is a very simple research-derived way of looking at what are the things in your life that can be corrected and improved to improve your resilience, improve your life, decrease your risk of suicide. And then for your psychology, we have the Life and Mind app. Again, this comes from a lot of research. It has a beautiful interface, state-of-the-art assessments, as well as microdoses of therapy. So you get a boost, when you do one of those little, therapy boluses with gratitude, with things that you can focus on that will make you more optimistic about your life and so on. So it's dual assessment as well as therapy. And it comes from research. We didn't just make an app like the 10,000 other apps that are there just to have an app. Everything we do is sort of carefully developed, tested, validated, and then made into a beautiful product. All the data goes into their secure portal. As clinicians, you get a MindX portal for your patients where you have all the reports, just like a pathology report sent out. And you can look at them there securely, or you can download those PDFs and import it in your EHR for that patient, whatever you choose to do. So currently we're helping primarily people at this sort of treatment red side of the spectrum. And as I mentioned, the cases that we see are where patients are desperate, families are desperate, doctors don't know what to do anymore, so they say, what do we have to lose? Let's get them tested. That was the early adoption. We also see a lot of interest at the green prevention part of the spectrum. So these are the concierge doctors, longevity clinics, and so on. And we have partnerships, and we've done testing with some of the big names, in this field. Where we need to do more work and a lot more education is sort of in routine clinical care. These are the doctors who are part of different healthcare systems where adoption of new things is slower. But we are working with a good healthcare system now with Mayo Clinic in Arizona, and we'll sort of pilot how to make these things more part of the medical workflow and so on in the future. So the future is already here, just not evenly distributed, but available for those of you who want to use it, make your life easier, and do a better job for your patients. So who do we work with? With patients and clinicians available across the country. We've worked with pharma companies to help them with some of their early stage drug development in psychiatry. And we partner with organizations. We now have an international partnership with the organization in Taiwan that has pre-ordered 1,000 tests, and they're doing all the next generation sequencing, all the kits, everything there. We get the data in our cloud, and we provide the reports back. So that's a model for future international expansion for us. We've tested people from other countries also, but it's very hard to ship a kit across borders, customs, all those things. Sometimes people flew to the US just to get tested by us. I think personally that the mental health of the future can become sort of just like any other medical specialty. It can be more precise, it has to be personalized. So in every field of medicine, we need to do a better job of personalizing diagnosis and treatment. One size does not fit all. And ultimately, it has to be preventive. That's better for patients, better for the healthcare system, otherwise we'll go bankrupt, better for everybody. So, everybody can have this Life and Mind app at home. It's downloadable from the Apple or Google store. You can use it to just improve your life, whether you have mental health challenges or not, just for wellness, for optimization. People can get the Life Improve screening to improve their lifestyle risk factors, catch them early. And obviously the MindX1 liquid biopsy is the core of integrating biology, treatment, medications, and so on. And based on that, we hope in the future that people will have pill packs with their, report-derived nutraceuticals and medications sent to them so that they can seamlessly use them in their daily life. There are other companies trying to do precision psychiatry. I wish more would do a better job because there's such a need. These are widespread disorders. Patients need to have access to better diagnosis and treatment across the country and around the world. Currently, you see here, MindX does most of these things already well. We just don't do the medication dosage bit. That's the DNA pharmacogenetic test, but we might do that in the future just so we have the complete stack. And then there are other companies that are trying to do different things. We think Tempus is a solid company. They're doing a great job in cancer, so they might do something in psychiatry in the future also. The more companies that do this, the better. So that's basically the end of the clinical side. I'll go through a few science slides just for fun, and we can open it for questions. All this work came out of this Framingham type study that we did in Indiana, the Indy 500 cohort. We recruited more than that, so it became the Indy 500 plus cohort. It's a very careful 4-step approach to discover biomarkers by following changes in blood in people over time, then prioritize them using large data sets and convergent approaches, then validate them in independent cohorts. So for example, for suicide, we validated them in suicide sample from suicide completers, and then test them in additional independent clinical cohorts. Reproducibility, and then publish. Reproducibility is everything. And when we first started in this field, we put out a little paper saying that, a simplified view of psychiatry for dummies. And in that category, I include myself. I like to have things very simple, first principles, and explanatory, okay? So at that time, there wasn't much known about the genomic landscape. That was over 2 decades ago. It's clear that in psychiatry, we have these 3 broad domains. Even though the DSM is imperfect, it's true that we have a group of anxiety disorders, a group of mood disorders, a group of cognitive disorders, and the stress is a major trigger. But at that time, there, very little was known in terms of the genetic architecture. So over the years, we've mapped that genomic landscape. These are all publications from my teams over the years. So now we are in the position of having these blood biomarkers that are very useful clinically. People often ask, and we asked ourselves in the beginning, like, why would we be able to detect something in blood that reflects, brain activity or brain pathology? And the answer is we did it in blood because it's easily accessible clinically. Okay, so it's a key under the lamppost type of scenario. But we can't do biopsies of the brain. People don't like to have spinal taps. So if it were to work at scale clinically, it should be blood. And we did it and it worked. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here talking about this. It was a very long shot initially with 2 decades of work. We made it now. That's almost routine. We discover things every other month, discover new things using our platform, our technology. The brain and the immune system are closely interrelated, so that's probably one of the reasons we're able to pick peripheral signal. And there are similar gene expression signatures in these 2 most complex and interrelated of tissues. So you can, with the sort of careful, focused approach, pick up gene expression changes in peripheral cells that track some of the gene expression changes in the brain. And they're both sort of responsive to some of the same external environment and internal milieu changes like stress, medications, and so on. So that's sort of the rationale for being able to see them. We're doing our best to publish not only in high-profile academic journals, but on the front page of Psychiatric News, which is the newspaper of the American Psychiatric Association, so that clinicians become educated. We participate in conferences. We're very excited about pain as an area that where a lot of progress can be done. So this is a large study that came out the end of last year in Elective Psychiatry, which is a Nature Family Journal, where we found blood biomarkers for pain and repurposed new medications for pain. And we followed that up again with an invited special report in Psychiatric News, where we break that down in detail, so clinicians can integrate that in their practice. So, you know, these papers and articles are available for free download from mindexsciences.com. But the point there is that a lot of what we call chronic pain, treatment refractory pain, is often due to the comorbidity with under-recognized, under-addressed mental health issues. And by being aware of those with our biomarker testing, matching people to the right treatment, you can also make a lot of progress in chronic treatment refractory pain. And our reports can match people to non-opioid medications. We found new medications that may be used for pain that we're looking into developing in the future as repurposed drugs and so on. So thank you very much, and let's have some discussion and questions. You can put things in the chat, or whoever wants to ask a question can unmute and ask them. Go ahead and unmute yourself, speak up if you have a questions. If not, you can type it in the chat, or you can send us email at Mindex, and we'll get back to each of you with detailed responses. We've also recorded this webinar. We'll put it on our website so other people can have access to it, refer to it, and so on.
I do have a quick question.
Yes, please.
So from a paper perspective, if your psychiatrist doesn't buy the idea of precision medicine, so you can't really use the psychiatrist to use the to come up with a plan for you because they're not buying into the accuracy of the test. And it happens about you having your own clinics. Maybe you would be one of your clinics when that happened, we'd have to do that. So what do we do if a patient whose psychiatrist is not willing to hold their hand and use blood test? What do we do?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We've encountered that. So first of all, these tests do not need a psychiatrist or a, psychiatric NP to be involved. Any primary care doctor, internist, concierge doctor, pain doctor can use them. They're simple to interpret, simple to prescribe. In fact, in reality, over 80% of depression, anxiety, stress disorders are managed in primary care, and not in psychiatry, not in specialty care. So again, this idea that there has to be a psychiatrist involved, it's not necessary. Any doctor can use these and prescribe these medications and see how, the responses and so on. And we do have to do a better job educating psychiatrists about it. This is why, we've gotten involved with the American Psychiatric Association. I got invited to write those special reports, the one on precision psychiatry last year, the one on pain as a dual diagnosis this year. It will take time for sort of routine psychiatrists to start adopting this. It's not part of their workflow. So, when you have a busy primary care doctor or internist or concierge doctor, they're used to getting lab reports, looking at that, integrating that in their workflow. It's normal for them. That's what we also discussed with the Mayo Clinic and so on. It's normal for people in different medical specialties to get specialized reports, look at them. Moreover, they don't have this barrier, psychological barrier, that they think that they can diagnose and treat a patient just by talking to them. They're busy doctors. They're used to getting reports. They use that, and then they have good outcomes. In psychiatry, there's still sort of this tradition that people are not used to using blood tests, and some of them have this impression that they can do a good job for their patients just by talking to them and using their pattern recognition skills. And maybe they can, but it's much better to fly with instruments as opposed to sort of flying by looking out the window. So just relying on subjectivity hasn't worked great for the field. We see all the time at Mindex people on 5, 6 different medications not doing well. Those medications are at loggerhead with each other. So, we're in this for the long run, and we'll just sort of, keep educating people. Once people use our testing once or twice, they become, converts. So then they tell other doctors and other patients and so on. But it's that initial, first time to use it that's the hurdle for some doctors.
Well, thank you. That's fantastic news. Being able to use the primary care patient is something I didn't realize. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, it doesn't have to be a psychiatrist, a mental health nurse practitioner, and so on. All of you, any of you can use this, and we make it easy and simple. And I can tell you that, I'm a card-carrying psychiatrist, but I prescribe a lot of non-psychiatric medications for my patients. I always look over, I get them on metformin. I look if their blood pressure is optimized so it doesn't, blow up their brain. I look at their diabetes. So why don't you do the same? Like look over these medications and, have no hesitations about prescribing, a low dose of a mood stabilizer, some antidepressant that matches them well, and so on. The good news is that most of our reports actually show better matches to non-controlled medications like non-opioids for pain, non-benzos for anxiety. So, it just makes things easier and with less problems and liability and so on. I don't want to talk about ADHD yet because it's not published, but the same scenario there. And, we have a big problem with stimulants, right, in society currently. So anyway, other questions, please. Yeah, so Dr. Fick is asking, are we adding medications annotation to our biomarkers? And the answer is yes. Every quarter, so 4 times a year, we update the annotation of our reports with the latest, data and results in the field. So if, so if a patient got retested, obviously their biomarkers might be a bit different, levels and everything, but, if they get retested at 6 months, 1 year, the medication list might be different because we constantly annotate. So currently our liquid biopsy has 330 mRNAs biomarkers in it covering those 8 disorders. We'll have more disorders in the future, as I mentioned, ADHD, alcohol. For the same price, since we sequence the whole genome, we don't want to just use this as a way to increase price. We want to lower prices. But anyway, 330 medications, 330 biomarkers, excuse me, over 200 medications currently, annotating them. I think a comparable number of natural substances that have evidence for modifying those biomarkers and so on. And we always look at having only things that are FDA approved in the US in our reports, and only nutraceuticals that would be available from a reputable supplier in the US. So a lot of things that are matches but are available only in Europe or Asia, they're not on the reports. But the answer is we constantly annotate. In fact, currently we have developed AI agents that constantly scour the literature and bring things into our databases that are again validated and annotated in the reports. Any other questions, comments? Do not be shy. I love comments. I'm a lifelong professor, so there's
I have
something
one more
else.
question.
Yeah, please.
Your clinic you spoke about in Arizona,
Yeah.
does that clinic see patients?
So currently, we don't have a Mindex clinic of our own. We collaborate with clinics. Now we've gotten a lot of requests from patients over the years. Can we prescribe for them? Can we see them? So because of that, we are going to launch this year the first Mindex clinic. And this is one of the reasons why I visited, Indy, in addition to sort of doing a retreat with the team and so on. We will have on the north side of Indy a clinic. So we will probably staff it with some nurse practitioners, and we'll have our algorithm deployed there just so people can have access to this testing and follow up and so on. Because there are cases where patients are, they come to us, they're desperate, they want the testing, and they say, well, ask my psychiatrist, and they don't want to order this, or they don't want to, it's usually that's the, I don't want to order it because, so we will have Mindex Clinic. Currently we don't, but stay tuned for that. And again, I want to dispel this concern that that some people have, some psychiatrists, like what if our testing, the Mindex testing, shows that they had the wrong diagnosis? So first of all, who cares, right, about the past? You want to do a good job now and in the future for your patient. And diagnosis is very fluid in psychiatry, especially. Things change over time depending on life stressors, your biology, what other medications you're on, your diet, So it's shouldn't be a concern that they might have had a different clinical label in the past. What matters is what can we do now best for the patient now and in the future. So this idea that what if and also in terms of medication. So you might have had them on some medications. The report shows that other medications potentially are better matches. So you adjust your treatment if you so choose. That happens all the time in medicine, oncology, that's why you do send out reports, pathology reports, liquid biopsies, other things. You start with some initial treatment, and then when you get the results back, you adjust your treatment to match the patient's markers and biology. So same thing here. So people shouldn't be hesitant to test patients and use that information alongside their excellent clinical judgment, their knowledge of the patient's history, family history, allergies, comorbidities, and so on. It just helps with the process.
Thank you.
My pleasure. We have a few more minutes if there are any other questions. And again, info@mindexsciences.com. Mindexsciences.com is our website. Feel free to send us emails. We'll reach back to you. We'll provide you materials, help you with the process if you want to start using this with your patients. We'll put a recording of this on our website, and look forward to working with you, learning from you. That's why we did things slowly initially without marketing and things like that. We wanted to talk with every doctor, every patient, optimize the experience. Now it's, optimized, automated. The reports look beautiful. The data gets analyzed, automated in the cloud. We even have Mindex AI agents that can provide some, feedback and advice in the portals, in the app, and so on. So it's all about having the most reliable science, the best designed products, and after that, having the products essentially be their best, and the utility be the best sort of marketing tool. Although this year we are going to scale up, we're going to go for reimbursement, we're going to do more awareness and some marketing so people know about this and can use it. But so far, our best marketers have been the doctors who've used it, actually, and the patients. They love the results, and then they tell other people. And I think that's sort of the best compliment you can get as a clinician, as a developer of products, and so on. So we're very happy about that. We get Christmas cards. We get all sorts of nice feedback. We haven't had an unhappy customer yet. Could happen tomorrow, knock on wood. But these are difficult patients. They pay a lot of money for it. They get the testing, and so it's remarkable, actually. All right. Thank you very much for making time in your busy schedule to attend this. I know it's kind of an odd time, end of day. Again, we'll have the recording available. Happy to follow up with each and every one of you who wants to use this testing. Contact Michael and the team here. You can contact me. Again, we're all fighting the same battle, and these are common conditions. We can all do better for our patients by being more precise. And, our MindX1 liquid biopsy, our Life Improve digital screening for lifestyle factors, our Life and Mind app, those are all tools that I think can make life better for patients, for us as clinicians, and, in the end, reduce healthcare utilization in society. Because if you're doing well, you're not going to have those expensive ER copays, those hospitalizations, those months or years of life lost, which are sort of the most precious. All right, thank you very much. Have a nice evening, depending on your time zone, or nice afternoon for those on other time zones, and look forward to interacting with you and learning from all of you. So thank you.